making sure relationships are right. We have one heart and one mind. So that work-life balance talk, to me, it's just life. And
Mm-hmm.
so we take that heart and mind that we have and we bring it to work, and then we bring it home. And so there isn't a huge division there. And so you can't be disingenuous. You can't be a bad person at work and then go home and then all of a sudden be this wonderful parent, right? I think we're one person, right? And in two settings. And so we have to take care of ourselves, because in the times that we don't, and we get so focused on work that we get so busy that we don't take time for our team members to give them what they need from us. And that's the right leadership. It's the confirmation. It's the honest dialogue of where they're falling short potentially. And I do look back, I appreciate that you said that. I pride myself on being a good leader. And I can think of so many times where I fell short and my team deserved better of me. And those were times that I typically got too busy in the tasks at hand. And I forgot that my role, first and foremost, was to lead.
I'm Julie B., and they don't teach this in business school. Hey there, I'm Julie B., and you're listening to They Don't Teach This in Business School, a podcast where we discuss business ownership lessons that are learned through experience, not in a classroom. Today, I'm really excited to interview Johnny Sirpilla. He's an entrepreneur, he's a best-selling author, and he's the founder of Encourage. He's also done quite a bit in his career. I'm really excited to have him on the show today. Johnny, welcome to They Don't Teach This in Business School, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Julie. What an awesome name for your podcast. That's really cool. So thanks for that creativity to get us started.
I appreciate that. And just a funny backstory, I actually went to business school twice. And the name just came to me because I went to business school. I actually teach in business schools these days. And there are definitely things that they don't teach in business school. So I thought it was very appropriate for what we talk about on this show.
That's right.
So Johnny, let's just get started. Tell us about you and your experience in business. I know you have a lot of it, and I think a lot of it is very relevant to the audience. So just give us a background on who you are.
So first, I'm a dad and husband, been married 32 years, have 3 kids, and really define success a lot by that first and foremost. And so very blessed for that stability in my life today, especially after what I wrote my book about, which maybe we'll touch on later. But I am a entrepreneur that has always been in family business. Sold my family business to Camping World back in the early days of Camping World's beginning back in 2003. I had a family RV dealership. Went on to become president and then chief business development officer at Camping World for about 15 years. Until we took the company public. And then about a year after that, I decided to retire. And so now I'm just following my dream of encouraging others and making an impact in board work or other companies that I invest in, and really just trying to enjoy this stage of leadership and this stage of my life.
So what is your favorite part about being a business owner and being a leader in the stage that you're in right now?
I absolutely love impacting others, encouraging them. And so for me, to see others and pour into others so that they can be their absolute best, to challenge them, oftentimes with what may be perceived as difficult conversations, to challenge them to move forward, to overcome challenges in their own life, and to ultimately get them to realize the impact that they're making in the workforce, not only in their work product that they produce, but in the people that they engage with, and watching people rise up and their careers grow. I felt for years my job is to come to work every day to make other people successful, and that's what I love doing.
And you talk about that in your book. Do you want to share a little bit about your book, which is Life is Hard, but I'll Be Okay? You want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So the book is really a story of hardship that my wife and I experienced. And the purpose of the book is to really help people to understand that life is hard, and that there are ways to get through that and to emerge through pain and to learn to live with gratitude. And that's really what the book tells, the story of us forming a family, which was very difficult for us. And it was not something that happened easily. And we had challenges having children. And then the first three that we had triplets, 2 sons and a daughter that passed away when they were born. And then we went on to adopt and other very difficult pregnancies. And so to have the 3 children that we do today that we've raised. And so we kind of had that family of 5, the first 3 kids, and after they passed, God blessed us, and we have 3 more. And so I write and I tell that story, and it is, filled with struggle that all of us have. And so it's not a why me question. Why not me? Bad things happen to good people all the time. And so that really framed my leadership model when I understood the pain that was going on in other employees' households. So for me, blessed in a stable upbringing and a good start to our marriage, when I went home, it was always happy. And that's not the case for everybody. And that was the case for me until it wasn't. And then it really changed the leader that I realized that I needed to be.
Can you talk a little bit more about the idea of why not me in the business ownership and entrepreneurial context?
So I think for business owners, it is easy to be a victim in life in a lot of scenarios. If you're the employee, you can feel the victim. If you're the business owner, you can feel that you're the victim because competitors coming at you, vendors coming at you, employees coming at you. And so, I'm just not a believer in the why me. I say, why not me? And I even said that to put, substance behind those words. When our own children died, it was not a question of why me. So we accepted it happened. And now how are we going to move forward? How is our marriage going to stay together? How are we going to emerge through all of this pain and find things to be grateful for in their short lives? And we found plenty. That same principle, Julie, applies in business. When you accept that in business, there are going to be challenges. It is going to be hard to be the owner. So many people think, especially employees that have not owned their own business, that, boy, if I could be in that owner's seat, it looks like it's such a more of a comfortable seat than this. But the owner doesn't really get to put their work hours behind them. They take a lot of those pressures home. And it's the pressures of employing other people. We know that employees take work pressures home too, on performance and how the company's doing, or maybe how they're doing. But there is a little different aspect when you're the owner that, 80 lives or 1,000 lives or whatever it might be, 10 lives, rely on you for the decisions that you make.
Yeah. And that is one of the things that I think, one thing I wanted to talk with you about is burnout. And I think the point that you just touched on, Johnny, about how business owners, no matter if it's 2 people, 10 people, 10,000 people, or 1,000 people, whatever the case may be for a business owner, or, even a C-level executive, that pressure of not only being responsible for your own life and your own livelihood and well-being, but also those of the people that you lead is one of the things that I personally think drives business owners into burnout. And I was just curious if have you seen that? Have you seen that happen where that burden actually is something that business owners take on and take so seriously that it causes them burnout?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it really is almost impossible not to feel those moments of there's nothing left in the tank. And, 2008 and 2009 taught us a lot. I had a workforce reduction of about 1,000 people. And that was awful. It was absolutely awful to know that we were making decisions. And at the time, in order to save 4,000 jobs, but we needed a significant reduction in force. And to know that moms and dads or kids were going home and saying to their family at the dinner table that they lost their job that day, that wore on me really, really heavily. And even went into therapy during that time because, knowing the impact that you're having and questioning decisions of your own, just to make sure that you've done every other possible thing in order to protect jobs, because that's never fun to do and it's never rewarding to do. It is a requirement at times, and that really wore on me and on my mental health.
Hey there, this is Julie B, and you're listening to They Don't Teach This in Business School. I'm here today with Johnny Sirpilla. And Johnny, we were just talking about burnout, and you said though something during when you were talking about the why not me idea from your book and just from your life. And there is this victim mentality that's kind of where that comes from. But I wonder if you see that also coming from people who get into the victim mentality before they even try anything because they're afraid to try something. Do you ever see that?
Where I see the victim mentality often is what was bred into them, what they heard, whether it was in their household, from their parents, from an older sibling, from anyone of influence who was, breeding on them that the boss is always the bad guy. The manager, he or she will be, the source of their challenges and pain. And, I've dealt with that with employees over the years, that you kind of question, like, I see this chip on your shoulder and this edge. Where's that coming from? And oftentimes I've heard employees say that I've never experienced a leader that I really believe that I could trust.
Yeah.
And I felt that tension with them. Like, there's something here I'm pouring into them, but they were maybe not reciprocating back and opening up. And I asked, where does that come from? And they said, well, when I was a kid growing up, I mean, every night at the dinner table, I'd hear my mom or my dad talking about their boss and how awful they were. And so really, when they had good leadership in front of them with team members of mine that were caring and thoughtful and pouring into them, they couldn't break through years or decades of influence. And so, they bring that into the workforce. And so that victim mentality, I think, is oftentimes picked up from what they hear from others and what they hear, whether it's from the media or any place that they can be influenced. And it's so dangerous for employees to have that, because it will shoot their career right in the foot.
It's that somebody's out to get me mentality, like, and it can be, the man, the boss, the government, whatever, but there is that mentality of somebody's out to get you. I think I've seen that in people as well, and it's really hard to overcome. One thing that I personally have experienced in my life that's helped me overcome that was I honestly playing sports at a young age, because you're all working together on a team and working towards the same goal of winning, and you got all these people around you who are trying to support you, and you are the one who is the one that has to get up and practice every day and do the work. There's nobody out to get you there, and I think that's one thing that's helped me. But I see that too. It's very interesting.
I
Getting
want to
beyond
comment on that, Julie, because one of the things that I loved about sports for my kids, and they were all very involved in sports, and some might say too involved, because we lived on travel teams and our lives were, crazy and all of that. But our kids were all blessed with amazing coaches from the smallest age all the way through high school, and people that really poured into them. And so when the coach does that and holds them accountable through athletics, we can learn so much about how to approach the workforce. And you look in the workforce at some really amazing employees, and you find out that they were athletes, or they were disciplined in music, or they were disciplined in debate. You think about them, they had people that held them accountable and let them know when certain performance wasn't good enough. So they were conditioned and trained for that.
Yeah.
And on the flip side of that, you could have those coaches that didn't pour into people, that ripped you apart, that made you feel bad, and you're taking that into the workforce as well. And so, I was always so thankful. I did some coaching myself when my kids were in their younger years, and really wanted to get the athletes to love the sport and to respect a coach and to respect authority. so that it kind of prepared them for more serious coaches in their future, and then eventually in their work life.
Absolutely. And Johnny, you have said the phrase poured into them a couple of times. What does that look like as a business leader? Can you give some examples of what that looks like?
So for me, it's funny that you call that out, because I guess I do say that a lot, and I do, because I think of pouring myself into someone else where there is a void, and I think about the people that have poured themselves into me in my lifetime that have made an impact, where they filled a void that I might not have even known that I had. And so to me, pouring into someone is, if you see that they are insecure on numbers and the finances and that side of the business, or their job maybe makes them a little uncomfortable, that you pour into them financially, so that you help them, kind of get their sea legs and feel comfortable moving forward, so that they're able to take something that doesn't feel like a strength of theirs and lift it up. Maybe pouring into them can be on, they're a little shy. And I
Mhm.
talk about, there's a fine line between shyness and rudeness. And so you need to be really mindful of that in the workplace, and pour into them to let them know what the expectation is for human engagement, professional engagement, inspiring engagement, so that they literally dig deeper. And I've told people that were more reserved before, that in this role, that reservation that you're showing is coming off as rude or disengaged. And so I need you to dig deep and find a connection with the person that you're in front of, and pour that out. And
Yeah.
so, for me, I think as leaders, we have to do that. We have to pour into our team so that they can be their best.
And in my experience, and I, people who I led 5 years ago, I find myself sometimes thinking, I want to apologize to you because I wasn't my best self. I wasn't the best leader then, and you kind of constantly improve as a leader. But one of the things that is so crucial is most of your job is going to be doing exactly what you just said, helping people develop, helping people um, just be better at what they need to be better at, filling the voids that they have, and also helping them continue with their strengths, recognizing their strengths and making sure you're putting them in roles where they can excel just kind of naturally. But it's so true. And it's actually, it can get, for a business owner, especially if if you have smaller teams, that is exhausting. How do you, I guess, how do you pour back into yourself, fill your own cup back up after you have to do all of that output and all of that work as a leader? How do you make sure your cup doesn't go empty?
Well, self-care is important for all of us, right? And
Mhm.
so, for me, working out every day, 5 days a week, that's important to me. That's one way that I fill myself back up. I typically do that in the middle of the day. So it's kind of a nice break in the day, and that does energize me. Making sure relationships are right. We have one heart and one mind. So that work-life balance talk, to me, it's just life. And
Mhm.
so we take that heart and mind that we have, and we bring it to work, and then we bring it home. And so there isn't a huge division there. And so you can't be disingenuous. You can't be a bad person at work and then go home and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden be this, wonderful parent, right? I think it's we're one person, right? And in two settings. And so we have to take care of ourselves, because in the times that we don't, and we get so focused on work, that we get so busy that
Yeah.
we don't take time for our team members to give them what they need from us. And that's the right leadership. It's the confirmation. It's the honest dialogue of where they're falling short potentially. And I do look back, I appreciate that you said that. I pride myself on being a good leader. And I can think of so many times where I fell short, and my team deserved better of me. And those were times that I typically got too busy in the tasks at hand. And I forgot that my role, first and foremost, was to lead, and was to impact others and encourage them on the company's mission. And, that is a reflection that I'd like to keep that in the rear view mirror, which is smaller than the windshield, by
Yeah.
intent. so we can keep looking forward. But we do need to call that on ourselves when we have missed, so we don't keep doing it.
What is one just looking back at one of those times where you weren't the leader that you wanted to be? What is something that you have taken from that experience and changed going forward to become the leader you are?
So for me, Julie, I am brutally honest with myself and very, very hard on myself. And that has helped me in many ways, because to answer your question directly, it's helped me realize that as awful as I felt when I let someone down and that ate at me and ate at me, I never want to feel that again. So I'm not one that says to someone when they've made a mistake, hey, forget about that. Don't worry about it. I know that you hurt those other people, but you apologized. It's over. I don't typically go that way. I ask them to really remember how it felt to hurt those people and really think about that, so that it impacts you enough so you don't do it again, right? So that it really inspires change in you. Now, being that hard on myself, there's positive benefits that can come. I've also taken that to the extreme, and you lose that self-love and that self-respect at times, because you just have that negative self-talk, because you keep pushing and you want to be better and better and perform higher and higher for your company, for yourself, for your employees, for your family. And at some point that gets to be a little much. And so I've had to work for me to find that balance, to dial it down, so that I can really appreciate some wins that I've had and some positive influence that I've made.
Hey, you're listening to They Don't Teach This in Business School. I'm the host, Julie B. I'm here with Johnny Sirpilla, and we are just having a fantastic conversation about leadership and business ownership and all of the things that go into that. And Johnny, one thing I want to ask you, how do you define success today?
For me, success is alignment in my faith, in health and happiness, within my family and people that I love and care about, and having a positive impact professionally on people. That's how I see success. And it needs to fill all three of those buckets.
How do you know both when you are and when you are not filling all three of those buckets?
As we really tune into ourselves and find where we carry our stress, right? For me, it's always been in my gut, just the tension, that feeling, or maybe my heart's racing. Others, it can be in their shoulders and their neck, and they're feeling the tightness in the muscles. Being attuned to our bodies and understanding like something's off. Where's this coming from? So many times, Julie, I've felt something, but have been so busy that I say to my wife, I'm off. I'm just not sure why. And I literally need to go sit. I love being reflective in prayer or meditation, and sit and think like, where's this feeling coming from? I can't put words to it yet, but I feel that something's off. Typically, when that is a feeling that I have, I'm able to track it to a relationship that is somehow off. And oftentimes, if it's a professional relationship where I wasn't the inspiration that I needed to be, I didn't give the direction as thoughtfully as I could have, or I provided all of that, and I don't believe it was really well received. And so we've got a challenge sitting there, right? That has to be resolved. And I'm just not good at leaving those things unresolved.
I think in this interview, there's like a triangle of leadership you've just described for me. One is what you just said, that self-reflection, thinking, praying, meditating, however you sit in silence and kind of reflect on what's going on, or ask for guidance about what's going on, however you do that, that's a big part of being a leader. And then the balance between self-confidence and humility, which is, I think, what you described with the brutal honesty and the self-talk, but not beating yourself up so much that you're afraid of everything. And then the third piece of it is just pouring into other people. Though that I see this like triangle of leadership, and those three buckets are so crucial, and they all operate together, because if you're not doing one well, it's hard to do the other two.
That's exactly right. That's, think of that three-legged stool, and you
Yeah,
take one of those legs off, you fall apart.
absolutely. So Johnny, I know in your work you use an acronym quite a lot, GRIT. And I would love for you, because I know what it stands for. I've listened to some of your other podcasts and read your work, but I would love for you to talk about that a little bit, because entrepreneurs and business owners need grit, but specifically the four letters that stand in your acronym. So if you could speak to that, that'd be great.
So for me, I was challenged on the theory of grit, and sometimes, my acronym can change, right?
Mhm.
Where depending on a season of life or a period that you're in. And so for me, grit is just so important because, as I write about in my book, life is hard.
Mhm.
And without grit, you don't have the resilience to bounce back. And that's always the R for me in grit is, the resilience that we all need in life, because we need resilience in relationships, we need resilience in work, we need resilience within ourselves to be able to stand up to something that we didn't think that we could ever stand up to. And so for me, that is so important. The G is gratitude. So I want to live in gratitude always. Even when life is hard, I want to live in gratitude so that I'm really feeling and soaking every life lesson in that's possible and feeling every emotion that's out there. I'm a deep feeling guy. And so if it's something that hurts, I'm okay embracing that hurt because I know that I can work through that.
Mhm.
The I is for integrity, where for me, integrity is just what it's all about. Without that, we're lost. We are just a mess. And so, keeping that North Star and having our integrity always, focused is just an absolute priority for me. And then, that the T, I have a couple different T's that come to mind. But right now, the stage in season of life that I'm in, and that's teamwork. I
Mm.
just love being part of a team. I love engaging with others, and feeling that collectively we're moving the needle and we're making an impact and doing something positive, and it's a force for good.
And what legacy do you hope to leave, Johnny?
I am kind of at a season of life, Julie, where I do think about legacy, legacy with my kids, legacy in my professional career. And I think for me, it is that people knew that I genuinely cared, that I was out for the good for all of us engaged. Everyone felt fairly treated, they felt valued, they felt respected. They knew that I cared about them. They knew that I cared about their career in our organization. And then outside of the work life, that people know that I genuinely cared about them. I
Mhm.
love different perspectives and points of view. I certainly have my own, but I love others' perspectives, even when I don't agree with them, because what I'm really interested in is why they got there,
Mm.
and if that perspective is working for them or not. Is it bringing joy in their life, or does their perspective bring anger and animosity and tension, and then they spill that into those relationships as well? And so I really enjoy understanding really where people come from, and so I hope that people know in my legacy that I appreciated their view, even if it was different than mine. And it brings me to a closing thought on that. My wife and I, in our vows that we wrote for our wedding 32 years ago, was a line, and it's my favorite line of our vows, that I promise to see your viewpoint in all as you must see mine. And I really tried to live, certainly our marriage that way. And Susan has done an amazing job at that. But I try to really do that in life as well.
Fantastic answer. And I'm really going to think about a lot of those things that you just said, because I think there's a lot of alignment in terms of the legacy I hope to leave as well. But Johnny, as we're coming to the end of the interview here, I have one other question for you. If you were going to teach a class to people who are interested in being entrepreneurs, what is something you would want them to take away from your class?
Without repeating it again, I think I'm going to just say the life is hard, but I'll be okay. And that business is hard and leading is hard. And so when you think of all the glorious parts of it, there is some glory. There are some benefits of respect given to you in a title, maybe far before you've earned that respect from the team. And I would ask that they know and look for every reason to have people feel that you earned their respect, as opposed to having that respect given to you just because your title is owner or president or CEO or other chief title, right? Because I think about that, the difference with, honor and a title, that when we've had that best coach in our life,
Mm-hmm.
we could see them 30 years later and we say, "Hey coach, how are you?" Right? They're not our coach anymore. They were our coach 30 years ago, but they got that title because they earned that respect from us, and that respect doesn't go away. And so I would ask leaders, and I'd want to teach in that class, for them to work hard for that respect and not assume that you have it because of a title.
Johnny, I have so enjoyed this conversation today, and I know the listeners will as well. I just want to thank you again for coming on the show and spending the time with me today on here.
Julie, it was an honor. Great questions, and I appreciate what you're doing out there in the business space to make an impact. So thank you so much.
And that is it for this episode, but stay tuned because I'll be back soon with more lessons learned on the business owner's journey. I'm Julie B, and they don't teach this in business school.